State Department is working now to assess the potential damage of what's expected to be a huge document dump. The whistleblower website, WikiLeaks, threatening to release millions of sensitive diplomatic cables, creating more and more problems for the U.S. government. You may recall in April, WikiLeaks released video of a deadly 2007 helicopter attack in Iraq, which mistakenly killed a pair of journalists. Then in July, the site posted 70,000 documents on the Iraq War, and then they leaked 400,000 documents on the Afghan War in October. And now WikiLeaks says this State Department release will be 7 times larger than any of that. And the State Department, well, they're warning allies about potential fallout. Let's bring in former CIA operations officer Mike Ackerman. Mike, good to see you. You think this could be potentially catastrophic? Catastrophic in what ways?
It's going to be catastrophic if it lives up to its billing, because it's going to, number one, embarrass us with allies. Our diplomats have to be able to talk with each other with a reasonable degree of confidence that that what they say isn't going to be made public. And it's going to have the effect of embarrassing us, number one. Number two, it's going to have a chilling effect on future correspondence. There has to be correspondence between, among diplomats and between diplomats and CIA, between diplomats and the military.
Yeah, among the embarrassments, apparently, corruption allegations contained within these documents against Russian politicians. Of course, we reported yesterday that there is apparently some evidence that Turkey was helping al-Qaeda against the United States in Iraq, and also some cables and documents relating to very sensitive U.S.-Israeli relations. Now, there are going to be some hurt feelings here and probably a bunch of angry folks. Do you think in the end, though, this will disrupt our diplomatic relations with key allies?
I don't think it will disrupt relations with key allies. They're realists. They understand that we talk among each other, among ourselves about them. But it could have a kind of a chilling effect on their future relations with us. Also, I think it's very important to point out that the information that's being leaked, a lot of it is going to be unevaluated. They may just be allegations that have not been proven. For instance, in the case of Turkey.
Yeah. You know, there's really been an explosion in the distribution of information. Now, a lot of that is related to technology, which has certainly helped disseminate that very sensitive and classified information. In the end, do you think there are just too many people within the American government and the military that have access to too much critical and vital information?
Absolutely. Just the proliferation of information within the government has mirrored the same proliferation that's taken place in society. We have much more information. Yeah. We've gotten away from something that we used to value, which was the need-to-know principle, which meant that you can find distribution of sensitive information, confidential information, to people who had an absolute need to know about it. We need to get back to that. Well, and we need to take a very...
And what about the individual or individuals, and one has been arrested already, who provided this information? Apparently a member, low level, of the U.S. military. I had a terrorism expert on yesterday, Neil Livingston, who said, look, if convicted, this is treason, and the perpetrator, even though he's an American, ought to be executed. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. I don't know if I would go that far, but what we have to put our money on is preventing these leaks. We have to be very careful about the people who are in the communications infrastructure, in the IT infrastructure, because they have the keys to the kingdom. Now, I'm very glad, very happy to say that my old outfit, CIA, which pays a tremendous amount of attention to communication security and to the need-to-know principle, has not been affected. I don't think it will be affected. And I think that these other agencies have to go to school on what the CIA does.
Mike Ackerman, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Administration sending a stern warning to whistleblowing website WikiLeaks ahead of its next release of U.S. classified documents expected to happen any time now. The State Department's top lawyer issuing a letter to WikiLeaks that their document dump not only threatens countless lives, but it will, quote, place at risk ongoing cooperation between countries to confront common challenges from terrorism to pandemic diseases to nuclear proliferation. How much damage could really be done by the release of these new documents? Joining me now, former State Department official Christian Whiten. Good to have you with us, Christian. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Jamie.
What's different about this document dump that's expected, and why are we notifying our allies as opposed to ones in the past?
Well, this one seems to be centered more around information that's processed by the State Department. So this is material that comes from our embassies and diplomatic posts around the world. It can range from the banal to the very sensitive. And it's a big deal because our posts are there to talk to foreign governments, but also to collect information so we can make better foreign policy. So you talk to government officials, business people, academics, journalists, etc. And all of those people are going to be a lot less willing to cooperate with us if they think that their candid thoughts and their confidential assessments are going to be posted on the internet, as it now appears they're going to be.
How many countries do you think could be affected or included?
It's unclear. We've been talking to a number of allies and also adversaries. We were talking to the Brits, apparently gave them a brief, a number of other NATO allies, but also to the Chinese as well. We have embassies in virtually every country in the world, with some exceptions, but there were, potentially hundreds of countries, really.
The reports this morning are that Julian Assange has spoken to a group of journalists and said that these documents and the release of them could affect countries all over the world. Can he be stopped? Because the administration's position is no negotiation.
Right, he certainly could be stopped. The administration, I believe, has been fairly weak to date. You have actually seen a little more action as a result of this disclosure than the previous two. The State Department sent an angry letter to his lawyer. But really, if you or I stole one piece of classified information from the U.S. government and gave it to one foreign adversary with the intent of undermining America, we could be charged with espionage. And yet this is a man and an organization that's done this with thousands of documents and given them to every one of our adversaries. He could be charged with espionage. He could be designated as an enemy combatant, because I don't believe he's a journalist or a whistleblower. He's engaging in political warfare against the U.S., but we haven't even taken any of those steps, unfortunately.
Why not?
Well, I think the Obama administration, once again, it's a question of whether the president's model for his presidency is a litigator-in-chief or commander-in-chief. I think a commander-in-chief would have acted more decisively to defend our ability to make foreign policy and national security policy. But, there seems to be an interagency discussion. You have the Justice Department, you have the State Department, you have the Pentagon, but no action has come out of it. So, again, I think it goes back to President Obama is more of a litigator-in-chief.
Some of the information could be redacted, some of it could be protected, some of the people mentioned, but Julian Assange hasn't been willing to do any of that. Yet, as you say, there has been no action taken. Did the State Department make the right move when it sent a letter to his lawyer? Could they have done more?
The U.S. government certainly could have done more. Perhaps, the State Department is just one of several agencies. It's the Justice Department that would have to file an espionage charge against Mr. Assange, which even if he's not in the U.S., we ought to do, because that would impair his ability to move funds around, to do things like get leases and travel. But that doesn't seem to be happening. So I'd say a letter is the absolute minimum. It's good the State Department is condemning him, saying what he's doing is illegal, but I think we could be going much, much further. We could also order parts of the U.S. government to assault this organization electronically. We have a new U.S. Cyber Command. Why not use it?
And if this is not an example of what they should be capable of doing, the question is, are they capable? You were a State Department official. You've been in situations perhaps not identical but equally sensitive. Why don't we have the capability to wipe out this website or at least block this material from being put online?
We almost certainly do have that capability, both from the short term to just deny the ability to access a website. But, comprehensive information warfare, if you will, could go far beyond that. We want to go after the finances of this man and this organization, find out which board members are linked to this organization, who its vendors are, which telecommunications companies, both web hosting companies and telecom companies, are hosting this, and they could be gone after. Also, he hangs out in places like Belgium and Iceland, both NATO allies that we defend. Alliances have to be two-way streets, and so if we take decisive action, or at least ask for it, then our allies ought to be obliged to respond, and if not turn over Mr. Assange, at least to prevent him from inflicting further damage on our alliance.
So the heightened concern today is legitimate?
I think very much so. So much of what we do in the world is dependent on information, whether it's finding high-level intelligence assets that can provide us with information on, say, the Iranian nuclear program, to just everyday folks who our political officers abroad might talk to, an academic, a journalist. All of that's put at risk. This really strikes directly at our ability to defend the United States and to have an effective foreign policy.
Christian Whiten, former State Department official, on a day where very sensitive information could be released at any time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie. Good to be here.
Eric?
This is a Fox News alert just hours ahead of the release of hundreds of thousands of classified State Department documents by WikiLeaks. Details about the contents of those diplomatic cables, a lot of them are leaking out. Melanie Wilkes joins us live from Washington with more. She's following all the breaking news as it comes in. Melanie?
Well, hi, Shannon. That's right. First of all, we have a response from the Pentagon calling this a reckless disclosure of classified information, illegal disclosure of classified information. What's interesting also is the way that this started to come out. There was a tweet from somebody in Germany who had bought the German magazine Der Spiegel, an advance copy before it was supposed to come out. As soon as some of those details became public through Twitter, then all of these other news organizations that had had access to the documents and were planning to publish them tonight just started putting them out on their websites. And so we now do have some information. I'm going to go through the British Guardian newspaper. One of their, they say some of the two most interesting revelations, that Arab leaders are privately urging an airstrike on Iran, and that U.S. officials have been instructed to spy on the UN leadership. The New York Times also has some of these cables out, saying that they go back 3 years, covering mostly secret information, not top secret, but also some that had been labeled that foreigners should not have access to them. And as we know, the Secretary of State has been calling and meeting with foreign leaders over the past few days because it was anticipated that some of these classified cables from U.S. embassies around the world would contain some embarrassing information. The Guardian has some of those juicy, more gossipy details, if you will. It says that the material includes a reference to Vladimir Putin as, quote, an alpha dog, Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan, as, quote, being driven by paranoia, and Angela Merkel of Germany allegedly, quote, avoids risk and is rarely creative. The Guardian says there is also a comparison between Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and Adolf Hitler. So there you go, Shannon, just some of what is being published, what's coming out about what is in those WikiLeaks documents. Back to you.
Yeah, and we know what's coming moment by moment. We'll keep checking back with you as you learn more. Melanie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, joining us now